Hello everyone. I am coming to you today with a really interesting, maybe something you've never heard of before, seed starting hack that will be really good for, I think, seasoned and beginner gardeners. If you're intimidated by the seed starting process, or you're trying to do this on a budget, you can basically do this on a budget of practically nothing. You don't need any special equipment, and it's extremely easy, low tech, all those good things. So I think you're gonna really like it. First, I'm gonna just jump right into the basic concept of it, and then I will go ahead and get more into the details. But what this is called is the winter sowing method. I've also heard it referred to as a milk jug sewing method, something like that. I call it winter sewing, but I have watched other tutorials, so I definitely did not come up with this. But it doesn't seem like a lot of people utilize it, which surprises me, and I didn't utilize it as much as I wish I would have last year, but I'm definitely going to this year, and I wanted to include you guys on the process. So here we go. Okay, so first things first, we need to gather our supplies. Some plastic jugs, nice and rigid ones, nothing super thin. Like this one is completely translucent, or it also works great with milk jugs or these vinegar jugs that are opaque. That works perfect. These are going to be like our little mini greenhouses. So I've even had great success with like these ketchup bottles. So as long as it is on the taller side, nothing shallow. I tried rotisserie chicken containers, or like those little things you get like blueberries in, or you know, little produce containers. They're more shallow and flimsy. Those did not work good for me. I've seen other people use them, but I really prefer not to. I like something on the taller side, so there's a lot of room for the roots and drainage and everything like that. So you want to gather your jugs, and then you need duct tape, something strong to cut with, these kitchen shears that I've destroyed because I do this every year. And then you need your seeds. I'm going to be sowing some annuals today because I don't have my favorite soil. And that's what brings me to the last thing that you need, and that is, of course, soil. So if you're going to be sowing any fruits or vegetables, I would absolutely recommend that you get a really good quality organic soil. Right now, I only have some cheaper stuff that I had on hand that I would just use for flowers, and that'll be fine because I'm going to be sowing some annuals today. But whenever I go to sow any of my vegetables, I'm going to pick up my favorite potting soil. This isn't a plug or anything. I'm not sponsored by Fox Farm or anything like that, but it's the Fox Farm Ocean Blend. I used it a few years back when I first started the winter sowing method, and it worked really good. It had a great texture. It didn't have like a bunch of chunks in it like there are some other potting soils I really like, but they have larger chunks, which is fine for the more mature plants. But for the seed starting, I just think they're gonna have a lot better chance if it's in a finer crumb that like the Fox Farm had. And it has a ton of nutrients, so it will feed the plants as they grow, because we're not going to be fertilizing them at all. Like normally when I grow my seeds indoors every week, I go to water them and I fertilize them then. So we're not going to be doing that. It's so simple and it's beautiful. But because of that, you're going to need a really good quality soil. So but feel free to go with the cheaper stuff and just use what you can, what you have. Don't make this expensive or complicated, but that would be my tip there. So what the first thing you're going to do is you're going to make a cut. Let me flip this around and show you. Okay, so I tried to do this on camera, but I'm not that talented. So I just went ahead and cut it. I'm just gonna show you guys what I did. So you wanna leave a hinge, I don't know, like an inch wide or ½ inch wide by the handle side, so that you can easily open it like that. And then you want to put holes in the bottom outside part of the container all the way around. All the tutorials that I've seen when I was first learning about this method, it showed to put it on the bottom, which seems really obvious. And I did that, and then I had a lot of them clogged, and actually a lot of plants just rotted and did not do well because there just wasn't enough drainage. They were getting clogged and stuff. So I found that this works really well for me to have pretty large slits. I make plenty of them all the way around, and that worked perfect. So you want your drainage, you want to be able to open and close this, and we still have our cap on at this point. And so now what we're going to do is fill it with soil. All right, so it's all filled with soil. Usually I would drench it and make sure it's all really saturated, and keep adding soil until it's the very top. I'm not going to do that just for time's sake, but you go ahead and do that. then you're going to sprinkle on your seeds. You really can put them, I mean, of course it depends on what you're sowing, but for example, like when I sow my alyssum this way, I just put like the whole packet in there. I just, like I'm doing microgreens or something, like I just dump them all in there. And then come like March or April here, I just have this like, looks like a chia pet in there, and then I can just open up the top and let them breathe, of course. And then when I go to plant them out, I just take a spoon, or just actually my fingers, I just grab little hunks, little itty bitty hunks, and I just plant them out like that. So it works really well for certain varieties. Of course you wouldn't do that with like tomatoes or something, but so think about what you're sowing and how crowded you think they can stand it. A lot of things can totally handle just being, like if you're doing leeks or something, they're so simple, you could sow them like that and just gently pull them apart, and they don't mind that at all. So that's something you can kind of, if you're new to gardening, that's something you'll learn with experience, but you can definitely sow more than one seed, especially in these larger containers. So you're gonna put your seeds in. I also do that with marigolds. These are some petite marigold seeds that I saved from last year. So this is how I'm gonna do it. So marigolds are another one. They really don't mind being sewed close together. That's about, well, I'm just gonna go crazy and do them all. Try to sort of spread them out, but I really don't care. I know they'll be fine. So there we go. I might sprinkle a little bit more soil on top of that, and then I will water it in, and then we're going to close this up with some duct tape. Something very important that I almost forgot was to put your marker in. Now I double mark these. I actually marked them on both sides, and I'm going to also mark the outside of the container. I figured that really ups my chances of still being able to know what I planted there. I can recognize most of my plants as seedlings, but it's definitely helpful to know what's in what. So now that we did that, we're going to go ahead and close this up with the duct tape. Okay, so there we go. It's all closed up. Just a single layer of duct tape to close that up, and then I did the extra label on the outside, and then what we're going to do is now we will take the cap off. I love the vinegar bottles because it leaves the cap attached, because sometimes in some instances you might want that cap back. So but I leave it open so that what's going to happen now is I stick it in the corner of the yard somewhere it's not going to get kicked over, or the dog's not going to knock it over or whatever, and I bunch them all up together. And I leave the cap off, and then whatever rain, snow, whatever that nature throws at it, it's going to undergo. And I really believe that this creates stronger plants. They're grown a little bit closer to the way nature originally intended, not babied indoors and potted up and, you know, fertilized on a schedule and all of that stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that, but these are definitely tougher plants, and some would argue that they even will thrive more than plants sown earlier and babied indoors. These will eventually catch up, even if they sprout later. That's what a lot of people say. I haven't done any side-by-side studies, but so yeah, I'm just going to do a few more of these, cluster them into the yard. There are a few things that you might be curious about. So you can do this at any time, even if you live in northern climates where they're going to be buried under snow. I've seen YouTube videos of these milk jugs just buried under like feet of snow, and they're fine as long as the seeds haven't sprouted. But in climates like that, they're not going to sprout early. Here in Northern California, we have a lot of gorgeous days like this, and then in my part, we're a bit higher elevation, we'll get plenty of snow throughout the winter. So say we have one of those crazy fall springs that we get a lot in February, and I have some stuff that starts to sprout, that would be a concern. So knowing my climate, I don't always get this started too early, because I don't want them to sprout early and then it gets really cold, and then I end up having to bring them inside and baby them or whatever, or I lose the plant because it gets too cold. I have had last year, I did a little bit of I did a few tomatoes like this. I didn't do many, but last year I thought for sure this one that I had sprouted a little bit early, because we got some snow in June actually, and it was just this little itty bitty tomato sprout in this milk jug. or vinegar jug, and I thought it was gonna die, and I checked and we had a 32-degree night and it was fine. I could not believe that. So it keeps them surprisingly warm, but you will have to watch for that if you have a climate where things could sprout early. Then once you get into spring, I'll show you guys this as the season progresses, but just in case, just so you have the information now. Once we get into spring and things start to warm up, you don't want to cook your seedlings, even though they're not ready to be planted out. You might have some warm days, and what you're just going to do is take off the duct tape and open them up and just leave them propped open so they can be in the sunshine and get a little bit more oxygen. And then at night, you close it back up, and that will keep them more protected until they're ready to plant out. So you don't have to, I mean, it's so crazy easy. This cuts out, it's exciting because you don't have to have anything like on your windowsill. You don't have to buy heat mats or grow lights. You don't have to fertilize it. You don't have to, like I was saying earlier, you don't have to pot them up. I hate potting up. Like, I hate that. I always wait too long, and then the plants get stressed, and then I'm mad at myself. So you don't have to deal with that. And I've seen it firsthand. The plants do really well. Now, some will do better than others. I don't start my peppers, or I don't grow a lot of eggplant, but I have before, and I wouldn't start it that way. Anything that needs a longer season, I would not start this way. And this won't work with every variety for every climate, but for almost everything else, it works really good for me. Even tomatoes. Some people that have a shorter growing season probably couldn't do tomatoes this way, but I am like 9A, borderline 8B here, my USDA growing zone, and it works great even for tomatoes. So they do get a later start, but they're strong plants, and that was one a few years back I did excellent. I had such a good tomato season, and almost all of them were started that way. So maybe there's a link there. I hope you guys enjoyed that video, and mostly I really hope that this benefits you guys so that you will be more inclined to grow from seed. It's so exciting growing from seed. It never gets old, and you can grow way better varieties, and it's awesome to be able to control so much of where the food comes from and how that plant was taken care of. So if you have any questions, if I forgot something, I know there's something I forgot to include in this, but I just wanted to get the video out there for you, get you guys knowing the basics, and just get started and just experiment. And it is a good idea to have, if there's something you just like absolutely would be so devastated if it didn't work out, it is good to have a few backups. Like I will have a first round of tomatoes going in inside, ones that I will baby, and I will get started earlier than these will end up sprouting, and that way it gives me a varied harvest, and that way I know for sure that like my black beauties and the other ones that I just can't live without will definitely be have the best chance possible. So but please let me know if you try this, if you have any comments about it. If you have tried it and you have any other suggestions for anyone else that might be reading these comments, please add that. Can you hear my son playing? And we can all help each other out. So take care.